So we had a big Death Stranding trailer drop today. Absolutely gigantic Death Stranding trailer drop today. And now we are left with a little over 30 minutes of content between the 5 trailers and a lot of questions. And that's kind of one of the things I see a lot when I watch podcasts or videos about Death Stranding is, hey man, what's this game about? Or I don't understand the game. The trailer looks really cool, but I don't understand what's going on. And I'm going to kind of attempt to fix that. I'm going to kind of try to string everything from all the trailers together in as coherent of a way as possible, taking like the key things that seem critically important. The basic categories I'm going to talk about in this trailer are basic story, basic lore, characters, and some extra lore for things I couldn't figure out where to fit in. I'm going to try to use footage from all the trailers and everything, so hopefully this will allow you to kind of stitch things together, and if you rewatch the trailers, you should get a little bit more out of them. If you like the video, please throw us a like. Let me know down in the comments below if you like this type of video, and we would love a sub. If you'd be willing to give us a sub, we will definitely take that. The only other thing I'll say is I'm gonna be kind of referring to trailers a lot. Hopefully, I will be matching when I say trailer 3. You should see the trailer that I'm talking about. But if you're only listening, that might be a little confusing. So real quick, I'm just going to say the first trailer was just the one where Norman Reedus, who's now Sam, wakes up naked on the beach holding the baby. Trailer 2 is when Guillermo del Toro kind of walks into the bridge holding the baby. Trailer 3 is when there is an attack, and it's Sam, Norman Reedus, with 2 Bridges people, and they both are killed. Trailer 4 is kind of a weirder, more broad stroke trailer where you meet Fragile for the first time, and trailer 5 is the one that just dropped today, the 9-minute trailer, the big guy. So just if you're listening, that's kind of how that's all going to flow. And I think we're ready to go, guys. Enjoy. Let's start with that basic story. Essentially, I'm going to boil this down as simple as possible, and trust me, it's going to get a lot more complicated as we go. But basically, character Sam, played by Norman Reedus, works for a company called Bridges as a package delivery person. He's a porter, essentially, which you can see on his uniform. If his name is actually Porter, like Sam Porter, or if he is a porter, is still a little up in the air. It's a little ambiguous, but I think that's kind of the fun of it. He's under orders from what is presumed to be the President of the United States, named Bridget, to set out west to, quote, make America whole again and finish what character Amelie started. So essentially, Sam is attempting to unite America, connect America. There's a lot of words about connecting and uniting and bringing things together. That is Sam's ultimate goal, and he's going to do that via deliveries and doing things for this Bridges company. And along the way, he's going to have to fight off Cliff, or the UCA, which is presumed to be in some part run by Higgs, and the Timefall demons. And all of this is happening with a weird otherworldly twist that's a little ambiguous. The only other thing I want to say on the general gist of the story that I haven't really seen a whole lot be talked about is the name of the game is Death Stranding. And while yes, this does refer to the phenomenon of like fish and ocean life being stranded on the beach when the tide shifts and stuff, I would like to just point out that the word strand is in the word, and there is a very strong theme of strands, of tethers, of connections, of rope. That was one of Kojima's tweets, was about making the rope. So just kind of keep that in mind. There's a lot of high thinking going on, I think, but that's kind of fun. But that's the very basic story. Now let's get into the basic lore. So I'm basically just going to go down kind of a list of things that I think are essential to understand in this world before we shift into the characters, so I can go into deeper detail on them. Basically, we're going to start with these BBs, or bridge babies, and they let you, quote, plug into the other side. They connect you to this death/other side, this other world, and they allow your arms to work, your little robot arms. You see a lot of characters have that, mostly bridges people, but not entirely bridges people. In the third trailer, one of the UCA people has an arm, but it appears the arm is kind of like a UI for that connects you and the baby and allows you to see these time falls, which we will get into in a minute. And they also seem to give you the ability to come back. And this is best seen in trailer 3, where the guy rips his bridge baby off and throws it before he is either forced to kill himself or chooses to kill himself. And then Sam picks the baby up and appears to be okay. And in trailer 4, there appears to be a BT about to come. The time falls are there. And they're talking to Sam over the mic, and they essentially say that Sam would be able to come back with his BB. So Bridge Baby should allow you to not only see into the other side, but actually go back and forth on paper. Then we go into BTs, and unfortunately, there's no actual name, but it occurs when it rains. When it rains, you know a BT is about to happen, and they directly correlate to time falls. And at the end, they leave craters. So that's kind of like the vague idea. So when it rains, there's a BT, and there are these creatures called time falls, which are actual creatures and appear to be, they are directly correlated to BTs, and they fast forward whatever they touches, which Fragile highlights in trailer 4. And they appear to look for life because every single encounter, especially when Sam's around, who seems to know what he's doing, they all cover their mouth, and they try not to breathe. It seems to be able to pick up on life, and it looks for life, and it appears to like to fast forward life. And the fast forwarding of life you can actually see in trailer 3 when it touches the guy, and he definitely gets older kind of in real time. And it seems at the end of these BTs, there is what's called a crater, and they leave a crater behind. And that's used kind of casually throughout all the trailers. They'll say, in trailer 4, they highlight that if Sam gets caught, it's going to leave a crater.
Sam, if one of those things eats you, it'll trigger a void out. You'll come back, sure, but the surrounding area will still be a crater.
And they talk about the UCA as leaving craters behind in towns. So craters are the end results of BTs, which are when time falls essentially look for and destroy life. And what does BT stand for? I don't have the best answer. I would guess it stands for bridge time. One, because bridge is like basically all over this game, or maybe bridge tether, I don't know, but bridge time or bridge tether is kind of what I'm going for. Time, because there is definitely some weird time thing happening, especially with the time falls, which make you go forward in time. There appears to be things that can go back in time, specifically Cliff appears to have some ability to go back in time, or at least pull things from the past, and bridge tether would also be the ability to connect to this other world where the dead are kind of tethered by strains. Okay, next we have crypto bytes, and these are actually kind of referenced twice. Once in trailer 3, when Sam gets to the other side, he kind of projectile vomits what appear to be crypto bytes. And at the end of trailer 4, Fragile explains crypto byte a day keeps the doctor away. And common sense would be that it either slows or partially totally eradicates the time fall's ability to make time speed up. And that's really all we know about CryptoBytes at the moment. Next, we have the UCA. They're called the Homo Demons. They are a radical group which go around killing, and they actually engineer these BTs, and they organize these time falls to create these craters, and they wreak havoc. Some notable features: they wear gold masks, which you can see in trailer 3, and they control or are part of the whole BT thing. So you can see in trailer 3, it appears that Sam got either a corpse or an unconscious UCA member, and he's transporting that member. And because they're so interconnected with these BTs and these time falls, they essentially rescue that corpse or that person, and leave Sam and his other Bridges members to perish. And then there's Actual Bridges, which again is a company which their slogan is United Cities of America. It appears to start at DC, just based on the map. It's a map of America with DC spreading out. And it appears that Amelie either founded or did a lot with this, with uniting America in some way, tethering America, connecting America, stranding America, if you will. And Bridget, again, President of the United States, is in Washington, D.C. All appears to be vaguely connected. But since I'm starting to get kind of into the characters, let's dive even deeper into the characters. So, I'm going to talk about what we know about the people themselves, but then any extra things that they have, I'm going to try to go into a little bit deeper detail about those particular items. And some of the characters, there just isn't enough about them besides like a name flash and like one shot of them. So the characters I'm going to go over are Sam, Fragile, Amelie, Cliff, Higgs, and Bridget. So Sam, he has a bunch that we can talk about that occur in almost all the trailers. He has a tattoo that's notable, a necklace that's notable, a scar, these handcuffs. He has what's called dooms, and that's kind of what we want to talk about Sam. But Sam is essentially a Bridges member, Bridges worker, and he's who you're going to play as. So that tattoo can be seen in a couple of shots, and that tattoo appears to be referencing the 5 figures which are in trailer 1. He kind of has one on each knuckle, and it seems like those dots center around this big baddie who you can see a few times. You can see him at the end of trailer 3, who appears to actually be the thing that causes the creation of the crater, and you can actually see him in the newest trailer for a brief moment as this big menacing creature. So it appears these BTs have a couple components. The actual storm, it appears that they bring the time falls, they bring the dead that are stranded, and everything's kind of tethered to this big thing. But the time falls can actually speed up time. Then there's the actual dead, which appear to just grab you and pull you into the other world. And then there's the actual big creature who causes the crater. And these 5 figures all appear to be in some kind of control of these titans. So next we're going to talk about Sam's necklace, only because it shows up so many times. There's really only 2 shots of it doing anything useful. One, it's just floating, and another, it appears he's connecting to some kind of computer, and on that computer it's a control panel, and that's more or less it. There's some math on the necklace, it looks like, but not much else. So the next thing is interesting. He actually has a scar, which you can see in the very original trailer. This is one of the few things that's really exclusive to the original trailer for Sam specifically. What's interesting about this scar is it's basically cutting out his navel, and the doll in the next trailer, the one with Guillermo del Toro walking down the tunnel, actually shows a floating baby doll with the same scar. Another interesting thing is that character we're going to talk about in a minute, Cliff, actually appears to have the same scar. And that's kind of all we know about the scar. My biggest guess is it might prevent the stranding or the connection. Like if you don't have a navel, that's really all I got. Let's talk about those handcuffs though. They might not actually be handcuffs. They are featured in just about every trailer. I think we get most of our information from them in trailer 3. The handcuffs, they appear to be blue almost all the time, except in trailer 3. There are 2 instances with the guy who's crushed by the truck. They are kind of a yellow, and then the guy who gradually dies, you see it turn from blue to red. So it appears to essentially just be a vital sensor. Actually might be more used in gameplay, like you might look at his wrist to see how healthy he is, Sam is. That really might just be the gist of it. And the last thing I want to talk about with Sam is in trailer 4, he and Fragile are talking about how he has dooms.
So, you have dooms, like me. What's your level?
I've got the extinction factor, but I think you got me beat.
You can see them, right?
No, but I can sense them.
Wanna come work for me? Must be tough out here on your own.
And they talk about an extinction factor, which I guess they might have a condition or a disease or something, but it's spread to a certain amount, and I guess it relates to their connection with this other world, with this like death world, because he can sense the time falls, but he can't actually see them, where Fragile can actually see time falls. And she has a higher extinction factor, or a more advanced presence of dooms. So let's talk about Fragile for a minute. She does not work for bridges, but she still appears to deliver things. She carries an umbrella, presumably because she's comfortable with existing in BTs, and she's capable of, again, not only seeing these time falls, but she can also see those 5 other figures that Sam has tattooed on his hand. She's also seen in the city, that independent city that was in the newest trailer, which is just something to note. She appeared to have been in opposition with the UCA, and that city is called Edgenot. Her coat says Fragile Express, handled with love. So again, this kind of goes back to the Sam Porter thing, because she calls Sam Porter Bridges, which we know he works for Bridges, and he's very likely a porter. And you would think him talking back to her, he would say Fragile Express handled with love in response, which would not mean that her name is Fragile Express handled with love, but she works for Handled with Love as an express delivery person. Her name is Fragile, but her name being Fragile is also a play on words, so there's a lot going on with her name in general. Again, she also has dooms, and her stage of dooms, or just her ability, is that she can actually see time falls. And now let's talk about Amelie. Amelie apparently knew the president. It seems only because the president is speaking to Sam in the beginning of the newest trailer and mentions Amelie. She seems to have been working for Bridges. She started the work of covering the world in possibly Cable. That's vaguely mentioned in the newest trailer. But the idea of bringing people together and helping them reconnect, this idea that Sam is finishing, she appears to have started.
Don't act surprised when it all comes apart if you try to do it again.
Humans aren't made for living alone. They're supposed to come together, to help one another. And if we as a people can't do that, if we can't reconnect...
And she can be seen basically every time we've seen her, with maybe one exception, is in this other world. But she's the only normal-looking person besides Sam in the other world. So possibly it's a hallucination by Sam. Possibly it's a time shift issue that needs to be addressed. But that is kind of where she exists at the moment. Moving on to the 2 baddies. Cliff is probably the most interesting one that we know at the moment. He's the military-esque looking guy. He appears to have Sam's scar in the newest trailer, which is interesting because he also appears to have a lot of connections, and he's referred to as someone who can't break his connection. And he actually brings up the title of the game. He says,
I've come to understand the truth of the Death Stranding. Oh, it's so hard to form connections when you can't shake hands. Fortunately, I've got a good connection to the other side.
it seems like he has an unbreakable connection to death. He has an unbreakable stranding to death, if you will, and he's not able to break the connection. And you can always see him with death strands. If you look as far back as trailer 2, which is where he was introduced, the skull soldiers that you also see in the newest trailer always break off from these death strands, and they're skull soldiers, so they're dead. And below the water of the second trailer, you can also see a bunch of strands, which means he probably has quite a few death strands that he can work with. But what's interesting about him is, in the beginning of the newest trailer, he is seen with a bridge baby, and he's singing it a lullaby. I'm not really sure how much I can read into this, but I can say this is what he says. See the sunset, the day is ending, let that yawn out, there's no pretending. That's what he sings to the baby, for what it's worth. As of right now, he does not appear to be a driving antagonist, but he seems kind of in the shadows. He doesn't seem directly connected to UCA, unlike Higgs, which I would say appears to be a part of UCA. It seemed very much like he was the guy in the latest trailer who licks Fragile's face, which is kind of gross. But other than that, you don't really see too much of him. He could be the person in trailer 3, and he is described as someone who struggles to stay connected, which is possibly why he needs that bridge baby and he needs that machine, and that is who you see in trailer 3 with the machine, because he appears to be working with these time falls and these death demons, but at the same time he still needs kind of the equipment to do so. And last but not least, we're going to talk about Bridget. There's not a whole lot on her, not a whole lot that's interesting, but there were a few things I kind of picked up on that I thought were worth discussing. One, she is the president. She is most likely in the picture that Sam carries around. Whether or not she was touched by a time fall and got old very quickly, or the picture is just in the past, is hard to say, only because Sam seems to be of a similar age in that picture. So I would tend to think that she was touched by timefall. And her name has Bridge in it, like Bridge. So maybe she founded Bridges. Maybe it's just like another name thing, because there's a lot of that going on, a lot of like what do words mean and stuff. I mean, I'm convinced that Cliff with 2 F's and Higgs with 2 G's means something, but that's all for the characters that we know so far. So let's shift into just some extra lore. This is just some stuff that I couldn't really put anywhere. The picture that I mentioned with Bridget. There's 3 people in it. It looks like it's being taken in the Oval Office only because of the shot of the Oval Office, but there could be an American flag in any picture, I suppose. It just seemed too coincidental. The first person's obviously Sam. The second person, the person in the back, the older person, is, I would guess, Bridget. And the person with the faded face, I would guess, is either Emily or Mama. The main reason I think it could be Mama is she's pregnant and the name would kind of fit. And again, Mama I didn't talk about that much because there was only really a shot of her. I would maybe guess she has something to do with the Bridge babies, but I'm not entirely sure. But that's all I could really come up with for the picture, is that I think Bridget is the person in the back, and either Emily or Mama is the blurred face. Then there's that big guy, which I talked about, the really big demon. He appears to cause the actual cratering of the BTs, and there's a lot of references to explosions in many of the trailers. And one I'm going to talk about to kind of close the video is, once there was an explosion which gave rise to life as we know it, and then came the next explosion, an explosion that will be our last. And this kind of seems to be, again, going back to the cratering back to the BTs. There might have been some absolutely massive one. There seems to be some rough correlation to WMDs. It's all very metaphorical, obviously, but just something I thought I would bring up. There is a lot of references to explosions, those explosions leaving craters, those craters being caused by these giant creatures, which are part of BTs, which are these storms which accelerate time and drag the dead in and tether death. There's a lot that can be read, but that's kind of all I have. Hopefully that helped a little. Now when you watch the trailers, you'll definitely catch a lot more. Like you'll notice again in trailer 3, that's a UCA member. You'll notice in trailer 1, that same scar that Higgs also has, that Sam has. You'll just hopefully be able to make some more connections. But I hope I could help. And that's all from me, guys. Again, if you like the video, please throw me a like. And if you love us, sub us. That's all for me. I'll catch you guys next time.